monkeys. I'm Eddie Braverman, that's Midas Mulligan Magoo, and this is episode 18 of Not Safe for Work on WallStreetOasis.com. This week we're discussing the Japanese earthquake and tsunami, Bill Gross's outlook on taxes and U.S. government debt, and the current NFL dispute. So let's get after it. The earthquake that hit Japan was a big son of a bitch. How big? Well, it tore a gash in the seafloor 217 miles long by 50 miles wide, moved the Japanese coastline 8 feet to the right, and sped up the Earth's rotation. So if there's a bright side to this, it's that your workday just 1.8 microseconds shorter. The most of it. In all seriousness, though, we're looking at a nuclear disaster on the order of Chernobyl over there. It's already been a confirmed core meltdown, 6 reactors have gone offline, and now they're pumping seawater into the melted core in the hope of cooling it down. This hasn't worked, and now radiation levels have risen above what is considered safe to humans. My heart goes out to the Japanese people. I'll link to a video below for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, but it's a city that was there 1 minute and gone the next, buildings and all. Just wiped off the map. This is going to be a long and painful recovery for Japan, and the Bank of Japan is already stepping in to stabilize the yen, but we'll see what happens. Midas?
Yeah, first and foremost, my prayers and condolences out to everyone in Japan or anybody that had any loved ones or friends or acquaintances there. We do a lot of Japan bashing.
Hey, you know what? Before you get going, I have to say, so far the death toll, I'm just, not to minimize anything, but they're saying the death toll is around 10,000,
right,
which is kind of remarkable when you consider the devastation. I mean, it's a tragedy, no doubt, but it looks like it could have been far, far worse. So,
agreed, but we have no clue what the fallouts are going to be, so, you know, a lot of the people who are going to live through this are going to live very miserable lives, so it's a lot worse than 10 grand. What I was going to say is, you know, we do quite a bit of Japan bashing as far as, you know, our financial industry and economic standpoints, but they're really amazing people in terms of global history and have contributed so much to human society that we often overlook that. And their toughness and stoicism in the face of adversity has always impressed me. And I think just the way Hiroshima and Nagasaki were tragedies for them, they'll still manage to come back strong. This might actually be somewhat of a blessing in disguise, being that the Kyoto protocols were signed in Japan. Maybe this is something that gets the world kick-started towards a more of a clean energy kind of environment, since obviously nuclear power is something that in times of tragedy can't really be counted on. So hopefully something good will come out of this.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't discount nuclear as a clean energy. Obviously, I think their reactors and everything should have been built to a higher standard.
That's the issue. Maintenance.
Yeah, I mean, you can't ever plan for an 8.9 on the Richter scale, but
yeah,
you gotta build stuff to a 10, and if anything goes above that, you know, I mean, that's basically the way California works anyway. But moving along, a Illini programmer started a thread this week about Bill Gross and taxes, and it got a ton of comments, so we wanted to address it. When a guy like Bill Gross says we raise taxes on the wealth and on the corporations, you should listen to that. I hate paying taxes more than anyone I know, but raising taxes, especially on corporations who have been dodging taxes like you would not believe, it's a required component of the 1-2 punch to wipe out the deficit. Our tax system is irretrievably broken, and I'll give you a personal example. I got an email from my accountant a couple weeks ago with the preliminary figures for this year's taxes. I knew it had to be a mistake, so I called him. Nope, no mistake. Because of some change in the tax treatment of a certain credit that came about from Obama's health care bill, of all things, I ended up with a substantial windfall this year. Not that I'm complaining, mind you, but I'm really not the guy who should be getting a big break on his taxes. What do you think, dude?
You know, I gotta take the other side of the argument against what guys like Bill Gross, you know, aka the guy who's been front-running the Fed for how many decades now, and Warren Buffett, the biggest individual beneficiary of TARP, and Stephen King and Sean Penn and other fools coming out with this kind of, you know, tax me harder attitude, you know. You know, you guys aren't asking the government to tax you hard on your earned wealth. So when you get into the billions and the hundreds of millions, yeah, you can afford to have 50 or 80 or 90% of your earnings taken away from you. but that's earnings. Now, if I were to have Bill Gross here, I'd ask him, Mr. Gross, you've been saying that little to no growth is the new normal, correct? So, if you and your billionaire boys are so concerned with making things better, how don't you ask to get back taxed on all the money you made during the boom times? I mean, when the system was just as broken and the middle class was disappearing, none of you guys were saying anything when you were raking in huge returns. But now that people are out screaming for blood, and now that you're starting to think about pitchforks and nooses, all of a sudden you're so concerned about the little guy who you've been fucking for so long. I don't disagree with anything he said. I disagree with him saying it. And as far as corporations are concerned, I mean, I think any company which outsources American jobs offshore under these bullshit banners of maximizing shareholder equity and investments and returns should pay hefty fucking levies. But there's nothing new to this. It's just ridiculous that it has to get to this point, and that we need guys like Gross or Buffett telling us things like this that we already know. Honestly, when I hear somebody like Bill Gross talk about things like this, I see a scared old man who's worried about competition, and like all rich men close to the end of their lives, does not want to see the young and the hungry come up.
I don't disagree with you. But a common comeback to when somebody says something like that is, especially on WSO, it's a common comeback. Don't tax me. If these guys want to be taxed more, why don't they just send in more money? Nobody's stopping them from cutting a check to the government. And like I said, this year I'm in the boat. I mean, really shouldn't have got the break I got, but I'm not giving that money back because if number one, it's perfectly legal.
Of course.
I got a friggin' Boy Scout for an accountant at my wife's insistence, but the system is irretrievably broken. And if I were to give that money back, it would just end up at the DOD and probably get some American kid killed. So, I'm not going to do it.
Agree with you 100%, but at the same time, you haven't made billions of dollars by being part of the system and taking advantage of those idiosyncrasies. So, I'll take it from you, I will not take it from them. But generally, yeah, shit definitely has to change in terms of the tax code. Agreed.
Yep.
Let's move on.
Alright, well, we had a lively debate about the whole Wisconsin issue over the past couple of weeks, but let's move on to a union dispute that everyone actually gives a shit about. As you can see, I'm wearing my jersey today to show my solidarity with the NFL Players Association in their down drag-out with the greedy owners. Now, you might just say that this is millionaires complaining about billionaires, but it goes deeper than that. Part of the issue is ongoing health insurance for injured players. Not everybody is a superstar like Drew Brees or Peyton Manning or any of these other eight-figure guys. There's a lot of rank-and-file guys on the practice squads getting banged up every day, sometimes worse than the regular players. Concussions, long-term injuries, etc. And they're paid an average of $88,000 a year. So they're hardly millionaires. It's easy to go broke with a long-term injury if you can't get health insurance when you leave the league. Now, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, and Peyton Manning filed an antitrust suit against the NFL on Friday under the Sherman Act, which would entitle every player to 3 times their annual comp if there's a lockout and the suit is successful. Hopefully it'll move the owners in the right direction and everything will get resolved, because if I have to deal with a Parisian fall and winter without football, I might just kill myself. What do you think?
I think I'm going to stop letting you pick the fucking filet mignon arguments and leaving me with ground chuck over here, It's like, I feel like I should have a swastika painted on my forehead, the kind of people I have to defend here. But,
nobody's making you defend the owner.
Well, dude, it wouldn't be fun if we agreed on everything. And considering what I just said about Bill Gross, I can't possibly argue for the owners, can I? Well, wrong, because I'm a schizophrenic, and so am I. I dig everything you said, and you're completely right. But NFL players are the absolute biggest fuck-ups on the planet as far as professional athlete behavior goes. This is the dude, listen, don't give me any Cristiano Ronaldo bullshit. He's just a dribbling fag. That's all he is. The only league on earth where people are shooting up strip clubs and running cell phone murder game on baby mamas. Come on, man. Many of these guys are completely unfucking insurable. Can you imagine the premium that the Eagles pay every time Mike Vick walks by a freaking kennel? I mean, can you imagine what it costs a team to take a road trip with Pac-Man Jones if there's a strip club within a 10-mile vicinity? I mean, the price of doing business for NFL owners has sky-fucking-rocketed. And this is why NFL stars need to stop getting these outrageous bonuses, because they're just not justifying them. The salary cap does need to be scrapped. It encourages a whole lot of financial shenanigans on both sides, the owners and the unions, and ultimately the guys who suffer are the practice squad guys that you're talking about, the guys that rarely get to see the field, the guys that are basically sleds getting hit in practice and taking all the beatings. And if you look at what players' unions across sports and across the country are doing, and we're going to be having the same discussion in a few weeks, by the way, about the NBA and possibly MLB, their focus is on the Bradys, the A-Rods, the LeBrons, and how to get them the top max contracts. But they are the ones who are ignoring their own guys. So, I mean, you take a look at a guy like Albert Hainsworth, for example. I mean, this guy's making his bail bondsman a rich man. And then talk to me about the rank and file. The biggest operating expense of all these pro franchises are salary. So the issues you brought up are good and they're awesome, but that's the players' union job to figure out and take care of. You can't always run to the owners and say, give me more money, give me more money. I mean, the players in the NFL get paid a shitload. We're talking about the top guys. If you guys are so concerned with the redistribution of wealth, how about taking a few points off the package of every guy at the top of the league and having them help out the guys down at the bottom of the ladder?
You know, you can say that, but when you look at Major League Baseball or the NBA, for crying out loud, I mean, if you want to talk about gangsters, look at the NBA.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, God forbid the NBA All-Star Game comes to your town, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, you can't say the NFL guys are making bank. Yes, they do very, very well. I'd never make the argument otherwise. But when you look at baseball players and basketball players, it's night and day. I mean, you know, and I get it. You know, baseball plays every day. The NFL plays 1 week. Yes, I get that. But, you know, to make the analogy that the NFL has the worst athletes in the world, I mean, I can't even watch an NBA game. You look at the guys that are the heroes, for crying out loud. Kobe Bryant, the rapist. You know.
First of all, that was proven. Kobe is not a rapist. You know, he likes to take the back door. That's all. You know, that's all.
At the risk of getting fucking sued, yes, he's not a rapist. You know, aren't settlements a beautiful thing? But you read any good books lately?
Man, actually, I haven't read this book for close to 10 years, but I think it comes at a good time for this conversation. It's called Restoring Japan's Economic Growth by Adam Posen. Written in 1998 and still holds a lot of really good potential remedies for the stagnant Japanese economy, which I would suggest the Bank of Japan revisit right about now. And for those of us here who aren't really buying into the recovery, it's also a pretty good guide as to what we will probably be seeing not happening over the next decade here in the U.S. So it might actually be a good alternative investment guide for some of you guys, and I recommend you check it out.
All right, cool. Well, since we've been discussing the NFL, my book recommendation for this week is Coming Back Stronger by Drew Brees.
Groupie love!
Before you guys go thinking that I'm some Drew Brees fanboy, let me clear it up for you. I am. This guy has an unbelievably inspirational story. He was never the biggest, the strongest, or the most athletic. He just wanted it more than anyone else. When he went down with a potentially career-ending injury, the San Diego Chargers turned their back on him after he put them on the map. Turned out to be a huge mistake. Likewise, Miami took a look at him and passed. Another big mistake. His story is all about triumph over adversity and how to unleash the hidden power of adversity. You guys struggling to get offers or interviews, would do well to read the book. I can't should not even be in your vocabulary. Never give up. That's all I got for this week. See you next time on Not Safe for Work. And stay classy, WSO.
Take it easy, fellas.